Coming up on the FSR Sarc Fighter Podcast, a way that you can help researchers find the solutions we all want.
So the goal is to boost research, improve care for everyone affected by the disease.
And an expert on the value of exercise joins me to talk about why it's so important to keep moving, especially if you have sarcoidosis.
Mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. They are the producers of the energy that your cell needs to get moving and the fuel it needs to do what it has to do. So when you exercise, your body adapts and it gets more mitochondria. It starts growing and getting more and more mitochondria within that cell. That's called mitochondrial density.
This is the Sarc Fighter Podcast, living with sarcoidosis and other rare diseases. Here's your host, John Carlin.
Hello and welcome to episode 143 of the FSR Sarc Fighter Podcast. I'm your host, John Carlin. The date of this recording is July 21st, 2025. As you know, this podcast is about giving you hope, information, yes, but the hope that comes with the information, with the new developments, new ways of looking at our disease, coping techniques, things you can do to make your life better, perhaps better than it was the day before, and also maybe improve the lives of others. So there is this sense of community that we have when we're all in this together. And today, towards that end, I have two guests. One will help you feel better physically and perhaps motivate you to move around a little bit, more than you have been, that's for sure. And then another who is going to tell us about a new FSR initiative to enhance the database of patients suffering from sarcoidosis. And even if you've already signed up for the patient registry, you need to listen in because there is something that you need to do to update that. It's easy, but this is sort of a requirement because the registry has been improved. So it's new and improved, but you basically need to go in and do a couple of things just to make sure that everybody knows that you're there and you are still willing to help. So I've got a guest from FSR, Taylor Harwood, the Senior Research Coordinator, and she is going to help with that, okay? So that's coming up shortly here in this episode. Of course, we're in the midst of summer 2025. The wild weather, man, it's hit many parts of the United States, and here in Virginia, it's all about the heat. It's been unbearably hot and humid, and that's triggering almost daily thunderstorms. And they seem to just show up every night just at the wrong time for me because you've heard me talk about this ad nauseum, but I love to ride my bike, and I typically have done it in the evening right after the 6 o'clock news. I get off the air and I'll go for a bike ride, and I've got some local loops that I do that I can get done before dark, but that's my workout, right? Some people go to the gym and I get on my bike, but we've had these storms every night, and so I track the radar, and I've got, my buddy is the meteorologist at the TV station. I'll ask him what's going on. Well, the other night, I was determined to go for a ride. There was this little tiny storm way off in the middle of nowhere, and it didn't look very probable that it would be hitting where we were. So I go out and I said, I'm going to ride up Mill Mountain, which is this mountain right in the middle of our city of Roanoke. And then you can ride on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and you ride for about 10 miles on the parkway, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then you kind of just make a big left-hand turn. You come back into downtown Roanoke. And that's a ride I've been doing literally since the late 90s. And so I get out, and I've just crested the top of the mountain, and my phone rings, and it's the meteorologist, Jeff, and he says, that storm we were tracking, it looks like it's gonna hit us, and you need to turn around and come back. And I'm like, well, it's too late. I'm almost halfway done. And he said, well, be careful because there's a lot of thunder and lightning with it. So I can now see and hear the thunder and the lightning off in the distance. But I thought, well, maybe it'll miss me. Maybe it'll go around me. It's a small cell. So I get on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and there are these beautiful old archway bridges that the Park Service built back in the 1930s when they constructed the parkway. They're sort of iconic. And it's starting to rain a little bit, and I think, well, I'll just pull in here underneath one of these pretty bridges and I'll ride it out, and then I'll do my ride. Well, the storm stalls, and it's stalling right in front of me. Like, it's 3 or 4 miles away, but it's right where I want to go. But it's also already raining where I am, so I can't go back. So I'm under the bridge, and I'm watching the radar, and finally then it's getting dark, and I don't have time to finish the ride. And I had to call my wife and tell her to come and get me, which is like the ultimate failure. Kudos to my wife, Mary, who's like, all right, I'll come get you. So she comes up with the Subaru, and we throw the bike in the back, and that ride was over. Boo. So then the next night, doesn't seem to be any thunderstorms around, and I go out, and yeah, I get about 5 or 6 miles into my ride on the Greenway, and it starts raining. And I'm like, well, after last night, I'm just going to go ahead and ride in the rain. A little rain's not going to hurt me, and I'm already wet, so what the heck. So I do my ride, and this is on the Greenway. So I go to one end, and then I go to the other end, and then I come back to the middle, and I'm done. Well, I get to the far end, and I look back towards downtown where I'm headed, and yeah, sure enough, there's the thunder and lightning again. But now I have to get back. And because I'm on the Greenway, there's not even a road where my wife could pick me up if I was determined that I just couldn't go any further. So I just went out and rode in the rain. I got back to the TV station where my car was parked, and it's dark, and it's raining, and there's thunder all around me, and it's just been really hard to get my workouts in. But I did actually finish that one. So I felt really good about that. I will share that here in Roanoke, we hosted the National Mountain Bike Championships over the last week, and I got to go to one of the races. It was fun to watch. These are the top racers in the entire United States, and they came here to Western Virginia to test their skills against one another, against our difficult mountain terrain, and it was really fun to watch. And it's just neat to live in an area that is so vital and so into the national bicycling scene. So you feel like you're doing something, right? You're out there riding in an area where the best in the country come to train and to compete. And, of course, I love to talk to you about bike riding. It's my gauge for how I'm doing versus sarcoidosis, and my number one way to sort of take it to sarcoidosis. Like, yeah, well, take that, Sarc. I just did another ride, and not only that, I overcame some obstacles, and I still did it. And that's why it's so critical to me. But it turns out that movement is so important for our well-being, especially when it comes to sarcoidosis, when it comes to the fatigue, the loss of energy, even the depression that can come from mourning the loss of your previous life. How many people have been on the show and talked about, yeah, I've got a therapist. Yeah, I needed a therapist. I still need a therapist. And, I'm trying to deal with all the things that are life-changing about this disease. And it's not easy. But you're going to want to listen to my conversation with Marion Paetznik. She's a physical therapist, and her family has suffered the effects of sarcoidosis. Both her father and her grandmother suffered from sarcoidosis. So she is turning some of her abundance of energy into helping those of us unlucky enough to be members here of the sarcoidosis community. So that is coming up later in the podcast. But first, FSR is rejiggering, if you will, the sarcoidosis registry. And as I said earlier, you might have already signed up, but there is a new and improved version of that registry. You may have gotten an email if you already signed up, but Taylor Harwood from FSR recently joined me to talk more about it. Joining me is Taylor Harwood, the Senior Research Coordinator for the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research. And Taylor, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so FSR is sort of rebooting the patient registry. And before we even talk about rebooting it, what is the Patient Registry, and why would anyone want to join to begin with?
Right. So a little background on the FSR Sarc Patient Registry. It's a secure online study where people living with sarcoidosis and even their caregivers can share their personal stories and health information. So the goal is to boost research, improve care for everyone affected by the disease. And the registry has been collecting data for 10 years now, and we have nearly 7,000 participants, which is really exciting.
Yeah,
So by joining, you can help researchers and doctors really understand what sarcoidosis is like in daily life. So physical stuff, emotional changes, and everything in between.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's so people who have sarcoidosis, you instantly you kind of want to help. You kind of want to make sure that
Yes.
find some answers that our doctors don't have for us.
Right.
Solutions, cures, treatments, whatever it may be. So a lot of people feel like they are compelled to say, yeah, I'll raise my hand, and if you want to ask me questions or use me as a case study, I'm in. Uh,
Yeah.
but so you've had this out there, you've got 7,000 participants, but now
Right.
there are new features and improvements. What are those?
Yeah. Great question. So, like you said, we've launched the new registry. We did that. We did our main launch in June. So we're calling it like the Registry 2.0. So it's on a new platform called Matrix, new and improved. It's a more user-friendly design. It's easier to navigate and to complete the surveys. We also have something called a symptom tracker, which we're really excited about. You can log your symptoms daily, like fatigue, pain. It'll track the trends. You can rate the severity of those symptoms, so it'll be easier to discuss with your doctor at your next visit. Um, we also have faster trial matching, so improved tools to help match participants to relevant clinical studies and trials.
Okay, so you're basically taking the database and you're adding
Mm.
some new sort of line items to it, or if it was a
Yes.
spreadsheet, new columns, but they're really going to be more helpful to researchers than they've ever been.
Yes, definitely. And another improvement that we have, it's optional and it's for US participants only. EHR integration. So you can go in and link your medical records, so through your patient portal that you have, and securely connect your electronic records for a more complete health picture. So that's also an exciting new option.
Okay, gotcha. So how do people who've got sarcoidosis benefit by participating in this other than sort of scratching an itch?
Yeah, definitely. So this is a place for patients and caregivers to let their voices be heard. I mean, with rare disease, it's really, it's easy to be disillusioned. And we totally understand that. But by joining, you can shape research. Your input helps researchers better understand the impact of sarcoidosis. You have more access to studies, so participants may be invited to join trials and test new treatments. So you can be a part of groundbreaking research, which I think is empowering for patients to even have that option. There's better self-management. So the tools like the symptom tracker that I discussed earlier support more personalized care. So you can look at the data registry as a diary for your sarcoidosis research. And for our participants, we have many participants that are still on the previous platform that need to be migrated over. So my word of advice is to go into the platform. Last week, we sent out a message through to everyone who's already a participant in the previous platform to log into the new platform. So what you would do is you would click that login button and you would need to reset your password before first logging in. That's the main thing. So it's basically resetting your whole account. So you'll log into the new platform and then you will reconsent to stay active. That takes about 15 minutes. But we still have access to all of your data that was there previously. Nothing gets lost. So all you need to do is reconsent to stay active. So take about 15 minutes out of your day.
So are you going to ask a whole bunch of new questions to update people's status?
So if you're already a participant, you would just need to go in and fill out the consent form, which takes about 15 minutes.
Okay.
It might ask you to update some demographics, but the main thing what we want to get our existing participants to do is go in and do that annual survey if you haven't done it. So it's that 12-month annual survey. Those are a little on the longer side. I would set aside 30 minutes to do that, but that's how we're getting that data. And it's a good way for our patients who haven't participated in that annual survey to, update their own information.
Gotcha. So that's if people want to update, but what if somebody's listening and they're not already in the system? How do they get there? What do they do?
Yes. So on our FSR website, it's on the front page. We have an ad basically showing that that'll route you to the FSR registry page, and there's a login button and a create an account button. We've also done a few social media blasts, so pretty much anywhere that you can find FSR, you will be able to find the FSR registry webpage. I don't know if you have like show notes or anything, but I can send you a link that will make it easier for the listeners to sign up today.
Yeah, absolutely. That if you send me that link, it'll be in the show notes. So,
Perfect.
okay. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Just huge thank you to any of our previous participants. Your voice is like super important to us, and to the people who have already migrated, big thank you as well. And thank you, John, for letting me be on.
So thanks to Taylor and FSR for the hard work. Look for the link in the show notes. I've already done it, and I think we should all give serious consideration to signing up. I think we should make sure that our consent is updated. So if you did sign up, you're still giving researchers their best shot at finding treatments and perhaps a cure and using your data going forward. All right, coming up next, Marion joins me to inspire us to keep moving.
I feel like a zombie, just feeding and stumbling.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the Sarc Fighter Podcast. You may be wondering, what can I do to help? How can I be a part of the sarcoidosis solution? It's simple. Make a donation to KISS, Kick In to Stop Sarcoidosis. 100% of the money goes to the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research. Look for a link in the show notes of the Sarc Fighter Podcast. Welcome back to the FSR Sarc Fighter Podcast, and joining me now is physical therapist Marion Paetznik. Marion, welcome to the podcast.
It is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
So you and I spoke a little bit. We were on a panel during the recent FSR Summit, and you were giving people some advice, but there was like 3 or 4 different topics sort of intermingled, and I thought, you know what, we need to dedicate some time just to the value of what you are talking about, which is the value of staying active and getting moving. You even had a demonstration how if somebody falls down and their strength isn't what it used to be, how to get up. So you've got some really valuable stuff for people to hear about. But one of the things that I'm going to start in an unusual place, and that's with mitochondria. Most people probably don't even remember what mitochondria is because you haven't talked about it since you were in biology class in high school. So what is it about our mitochondria and moving and sarcoidosis where all those lines cross?
Yeah, I think that's such a fun way to start. Well, if you recall back from your 8th grade biology class, mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. They are the producers of the energy that your cell needs to get moving and the fuel it needs to do what it has to do. So when you exercise, your body adapts and it gets more mitochondria. It starts growing and getting more and more mitochondria within that cell. That's called mitochondrial density. And we know with exercise, you get more and more mitochondria packed into those cells so you can do more and more work. And you have better endurance. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. There's so many ways, John, though, that exercise is going to help you fight those symptoms that people with sarcoidosis, it's relentless. The fatigue, mitochondria is a piece of it, but the heart muscle, the heart's made of muscle as well. And when your heart muscle gets stronger, it can push out larger volumes of blood with each beat. And you probably can notice that in your everyday life when you go up a set of stairs and you get to the top of the stairs and your heart is like thump, 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 thump. You know, your heart is really struggling to keep up with that demand of your legs going up those stairs and moving your body up. But when you're fitter, your heart doesn't have to push out, you know, it gets all the blood it needs to deliver to the muscles with fewer beats. So when your heart's strong, you get to the top of the stairs and it's just like dump, bump, 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 instead of like that super fast. And that's your heart has adapted and it's able to, you know, hang on to tougher and tougher loads. Another thing that exercise does, I think it's so important, is angiogenesis. And that's a big fancy word, kind of like mitochondria. And angiogenesis is just your body, all these little blood vessels in your muscles, in your brain, even. It'll help with the brain fog too. It's incredible. All these little blood vessels deliver oxygen to these tissues. And when you exercise, your body adapts and says, we need more vessels, we need more capillaries delivering oxygen to these tissues. And you start growing denser capillary networks, and that lowers your blood pressure, that gets your tissues, your brain and your legs the oxygen it needs when you're under stress, when you're under demand. And that's huge for people with sarcoidosis. Another thing is people that cough a lot with sarcoidosis, those pulmonary symptoms, they can have really tight necks. They can be really stiff through the chest and the thorax. So when you're exercising and you're doing whatever, yoga, and you're moving around, you're getting back that great chest expansion, which is what we need to take big, full breaths. One other thing, I'm sorry, I know I've been talking is this the whole podcast now?
No, you're great. You're killing it. You're killing it.
Good. Okay. Another thing exercise will help with is modulating that immune function. So we know sarcoidosis fighters, we are the immune overachievers of the world. Okay. Our immune systems are in overdrive. And when we exercise, it moderates, it reduces systemic inflammation. As long as we're not overdoing it, we're reducing that systemic inflammation, and we're helping fine tune our immune systems. It really just polishes us up in so many ways and helps us, you know, we're strong enough to face whatever we got to face in life. And that's what it's all about.
Got it. Okay, so let's say, all right, you are selling me on this exercise and I'm buying.
Good.
I am buying, but I've got sarcoidosis and I've got fatigue and I don't have any energy. And so I've kind of just gotten into a space where this is a hypothetical person, right?
Sure.
But this is also a common story in sarcoidosis. And now I find that I get up and I go to work barely, or maybe I don't even work anymore. So I have breakfast and I sit down and I watch TV and then I take a nap and then And I just really don't have the energy to even think about getting moving. So if I'm buying what you're selling,
Mm-hmm.
how do I do it? How do I get to that point?
Well, I'd love to tell you all about the wonderful world of physical therapy.
Okay.
I think if you have access to a physical therapist to help you kind of, where do I start with this? That is the best you can do. Honestly, if you go to a pulmonary rehab, that's where I work. I'm off to work right after this recording here. And I'm going to go and help people in that exact situation. You know, they just got out of the hospital and they just can't believe how weak they are and things like that. And that's what this is about. When you go to a physical therapy or a pulmonary rehab, they sit down and assess, okay, how strong are these legs? What can we do? Can we get out of this chair? What if we lift up the chair just a little bit more? How do we take these baby steps to reclaim this independence in your life? So if you have a physical therapist that you can, talk to, that's number one. But if you can't do that, I would say, I think the best thing you can do is break your exercise into what I call little exercise snacks. So I think a lot of us are used to, you go out there for 60 minutes and you just hammer that workout. You know what I mean? And maybe that works for a super young fit person, but a lot of people that just got out of the hospital, that is not going to happen. They're like, what? No. And that's respectable. I think a great idea is to maybe take 10 minutes in the morning, do a nice stretch, do a short walk, And you can be seated for the stretch. It doesn't even have to be a standing stretch. There's great option. Even laying down in your bed is great movement. And then, getting a good stretch, having a walk after just a short one, 5 minutes even after a meal is a wonderful way to incorporate activity. I also think it's great to do a little activity like tied to your morning routines. All my patients, I say, when your morning coffee is brewing, try out a little bit of balance work. Get next to your countertop and see if you can stand on one foot. See if you can stand like you're on a balance beam. See if you can do the walking on a tightrope, sobriety test kind of thing, and tease out the balance and work on your posture. You know what I mean? All these little ways you can tie exercise into your routines. They're just wonderful. And I think it's really worth exploring.
So in a world of exercise, I kind of break it down into, this is oversimplification, and I might be wrong, but I break it down into strength training and cardio training. So one is lifting weights and one is just walking or doing, like for me, it's cycling. So what is it important to do both, or if you could just pick one, what would you do?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, John, it's like, how do you pick all your favorites? They're all so good for you. Yeah. You know what? It's tough because with sarcoidosis, patients are often facing a lot of really tough pulmonary symptoms. And sometimes they can be facing tough cardio symptoms too. So, if you've got cardiac sarcoidosis, it's important you train below that threshold and you work with your doctor and make sure you're working within your means. If you have pulmonary sarcoidosis, it's important that you have your pulse oximeter on you and you're, taking care of that. I'm sorry, I forget what we were chatting. What was the original question?
If you could pick one or the other, would you go for a walk, or would you just lift some light weights?
Oh man, if I had to pick, I would probably go for a walk. I just think that's if I had to choose, but boy, it's tough to choose because lifting weights is just so good for you.
Yeah, it is, huh?
And
does that build the mitochondria? Which one builds more mitochondria?
Ooh, great question. I'm going to say cardio training in the target heart range, like 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. That's where you're going to get that mitochondrial density, the stroke volume, increased cardiac muscle output, and angiogenesis that we were talking about earlier.
Huh. So interesting. Now you have a connection to sarcoidosis. Do you want to share that with us?
Sure. Yeah, I feel really passionate about sarcoidosis. I was actually a high school teacher minding my own business. My dad had been living with sarcoidosis for years. My grandmother, the original Marion, she passed from sarcoidosis right before I was born. But I understand she was just an incredible lady. And, I was a high school physical education, health and biology teacher. I was also a college athlete. I just really loved working out. And I believe that weightlifting, strength, feeling fit, strong, fast, light, fast, powerful, all that stuff, that's not just for athletes. That is for everyone to enjoy and experience in their bodies. And that's why I wanted to be a physical education teacher. And then, gosh, my dad was so sick. And I also want to mention, sarcoidosis was the tough thing to get over, but he struggled with infection control. He had sepsis and that him recurring. So I think a lot of times when we talk about sarcoidosis, we focus so much on the symptoms. Let's also focus on hit that infection control, guys. Don't let that be the thing that bites you. If you hear this story, don't let infection control be the thing that takes you out. His heart rate was real high at home. And he was ignoring it because probably a lot of people out there are going to recognize and feel this. He ignored it because he felt like, I've got so much work to do. I just got to finish this one drawing I got from my client, and then I'm going to go and I'll get it checked out. I'm sure it's just my sarcoidosis, but it wasn't. He had MRSA, which right on top of the sarcoidosis was an absolute nightmare. And he couldn't shake it because of all the immune things with the sarcoidosis. And I guess I feel like that's a big message. I wanted to get out to the sarcoidosis community and say, hey, I know we're working so hard finding that cure, but in the meantime, we got to take care of things. And then the other thing, of course, is exercise. You want to get the quality of your life, the absolute highest it can be. This is where you need to be. And every time you exercise, you just boy, you just get a little bit of hope and a little bit of energy for the future. And especially, I know you're a cyclist. Do you go out in a group?
Sometimes I ride in a group. Last night I rode by myself. I rode for about an hour and 15 minutes last night on a local greenway, which is flat. So you can kind of just choose your pace, but I decided I wanted to push it a little bit. So my heart rate was around 122 for an hour.
Woohoo. That's awesome.
So I don't know what that is. It shows up on my watch as zone 2.
That's excellent.
So,
That's excellent.
So zone 2, but but we live in the mountains. So
Wow.
so over the weekend, I was out climbing in the mountains, and my heart rate was within a few ticks of max.
Yeah.
So your maximum heart rate theoretically is 220 minus your age.
Mm-hmm.
So the people I ride with, a lot of them, that formula just doesn't make any sense because they're able to ride at a much higher heart rate than I am. But when I get up to 156, 158, I'm just about blacking out. So
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting thing you're touching on, John. Just right now, it's actually, there's so much wonderful research going on in pulmonary rehab just about that heart rate stuff you're saying. And yeah, we're finding that heart rate formula, the fitter you are, the younger you are, that formula might not be what's the best for you. And there are other measures, people can do other maximum exercise tests that are a much better indicator of their max heart rate.
Mhm.
Yeah, but congrats to them for falling out, being outliers for those tests that we typically use. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I will tell you that for me, like we've had my window of opportunity to ride every day is at 6:30 p.m. Right,
Mm.
and we are on this pattern of thunderstorms every evening that are popping up at 6:30 p.m. And
So
I'm
rude.
so rude, right? So I haven't been able to ride, and when I don't ride for 4 or 5 days in a row, I start to feel really cranky and weird and not myself. And yet, the days after I ride, I feel so much better.
hmm
And it's just so what you're saying makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Winter, we've got a Peloton, so I can ride indoors, and I can still get my pedaling done. And I'm not all that as a cyclist, but I really enjoy it, and I do think that it's helping me with the thing I deal with is neuropathy, right?
Mm.
I've got damage to my spinal cord from neurosarcoidosis.
Mm.
So, and it's right in the back of my neck, so everything south of my neck is constantly
Buzzing.
Yep, exactly. And it's affected my nimbleness, as it were. So, like, I used to be a runner. I can't run anymore because like the running motion just is so awkward to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I have shuffled the 10K just to say I did it, but it's not like the marathon running that I did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Which, at my age, I don't need to be running marathons anyway. But my neuropathy seems worse if I go long periods of time without riding my bicycle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially, when we talk about those immune modulation factors that happen when you're exercising, I think after a while, your body just isn't as finely tuned and it's having a harder time regulating itself. And, I just like you said, cranky too, is those same capillaries and stuff, they're not just in your muscles, they're in your brain. And when you have a dense capillary network in your brain, you're quicker, you're more on it. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's my motivating factor.
Right.
Because I'm like, where'd I put my keys?
Yeah. You were a high school athlete or you were a college athlete? What?
Yes. Oh man, did I have a supportive dad? And that's why I'm out here fighting for all these people that have sarcoidosis, because I sure had a heck of a dad. My parents put me through club volleyball. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's paying the price tag for that right now.
Uh-huh.
It was very expensive. It was a huge sacrifice for my family, but I did end up getting a full ride scholarship. I went to Valparaiso University. It is D1, it's small. And, but it was exactly the right fit for me because I came from a tiny little town and my team was great. I actually just went on vacation with our middle from the team. Our families are friends now. We're teammates for life. And it's been awesome. I went back. My college coach is still there coaching. We were her first recruited class. She's now the winningest coach in school history. And boy, it was so fun to go home to Valpo and celebrate that moment with her because she is just such a cool woman. And yeah, I feel like, just like I said, at first when I went to Valpo, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I really like exercise. I don't know. And when I left, I really believed that exercise was for everybody and it was my duty to share it and, help people touch on their own athleticism. And once you find it, you're fast for the first time, that first good race once you touch that, it's like you keep coming back,
Yeah,
if you
no,
can.
I totally would agree with that. So I don't know all the positions in volleyball, but there's the person who like sets the ball, and then there's this person who spikes the ball.
Yeah,
Is that a
I was
hitter?
I was an outside hitter. I played all the way around. I was like kind of lucky. I'm kind of short. I'm
Yeah,
5'9", which sounds huge, but for college volleyball, that's kind of like,
yeah,
meh.
right.
And
But you were
so,
still a hitter at 5'9"?
yeah, I got to hit, and I honestly, it was kind of like, I never got a lot of kills, but I didn't make a lot of mistakes. And that's how I got to be in the starting lineup.
So you must be able to jump right out of the gym then if you're.
Oh, not anymore. Kind of like you
No.
said with running, it kind of goes, I don't jump, and that's okay. I actually found it's funny. So after volleyball ended, I was like, well, you can't play forever. That's just how it is. Movement evolves and time changes, and that's just how it goes. So I started teaching step aerobics because it reminded me of the plyometrics that I had been doing playing volleyball. And I also started teaching just regular weightlifting and like in a group exercise format. And it was mostly women that had like never lifted in their lives. You know what I mean? And sometimes they would be downright better than me at that. I'd be like, everyone watch her push-ups. They're so good. you know,
Okay. So let's boy, your energy is just really infectious. I love it.
oh, I'm glad.
So somebody's listening right now and they're like, okay, I want to be like Marion. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna find that moment. But boy, it's a long way from where I am to that. What kind of progression should people expect? And how do they keep going on the days that maybe they're discouraged or just don't feel like it?
Yeah, I think a lot of keeping going when you don't feel like it is one of the toughest things there is. I think, first of all, the days that you actually do show up on you don't want to go and you do it anyway, those are your best days. A lot of people think about their personal record days and stuff like that. Wow, I got the best I've ever done. Yeah, because you felt great. But, what about the days you didn't feel great? Were you still able to go in there and give a good effort? Because, wow, that's really something to be proud of. So I think maybe shifting your mindset around this has got to be my best day ever every time is kind of hard for people, especially
Hmm.
people that are real competitive.
Hmm.
Like instead say like, this is something just for me because I want to build the brightest future. This is about me having becoming my best version of myself right now today. So I think that's a good thing to do. I think the other thing is, like we said, breaking it up into little exercise snacks. And you know what, John, you were saying how you love marathon running and stuff. Sometimes it's fun to play with that reaction time stuff, even in your house. Can
Yeah.
I, pa, can I, like,
Can I just do something fun while I'm putting the dishes away?
yeah, can I put my spoon away quick? Just little things like that. Play
Right.
around with your speed in your home and see how quickly you can fold a towel. Little things like that. Ooh, I'm lightning today,
Yeah.
and have fun with
Right.
it,
Right.
And I think it's fun to play around with that stuff. And yeah, I know I mentioned this before, but I just love when I'm in a session with somebody. And so after plyometrics, I became friends with some people that were really into mixed martial arts.
Oh,
And
wow.
they were like, oh my gosh, you got to start doing this. If you love volleyball, if you love the speed and explosiveness of volleyball, you have got to try mixed martial arts. They were totally right. And I love when we do that, especially because we were talking about the chest and the neck being so tight. When you're, striking and jabbing and uppercuts and all that, you really get great trunk rotation, and you're working on the fast twitch muscle fibers, which can be so fun to like land a strike on a pad and you feel great,
Do
And
you actually fight against other people?
no, I only hit pads. Honestly, I
Only
thought I
that.
would. I
Okay.
thought I would I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm like I'm in great shape, I thought. And it wasn't even about fighting other people. It was about me becoming the best version of myself, mastering my own self if I was under pressure to get hit. You know what I mean? And then I saw the other girls that had been hit a few times, and I decided I wanted my face to be where it was. And I didn't want to take
Good choice.
I didn't want to take any shots to the head.
Yeah. So what do you have kids? How many kids do you have?
I too. I've got an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And what does your 11-year-old think of mom, the mixed martial arts person?
I think he's okay with anything. He'll come in and I'll be like fighting, and he'll come in and just start jabbing too. Let's go, mom.
That is so funny.
Yeah. He doesn't do, my daughter does karate, but he doesn't do he does lacrosse.
Okay.
I don't think they think much of it. My husband and I we have a squat rack in our garage. We don't drive fancy cars, so we just park on the street, and we have a little gym in our garage we put there in COVID. And yeah.
So you're out there in the garage, like doing squats and lifting weights, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I got a squat rack. I lift about 4 days a week. I don't know, you said your sweet time is 6:30, but I am so tired at the end of the day. So for me, I try to get in before my body even knows it's awake. And I do all my lifting before I go to work. And then my husband does it after work. He's like you. Okay.
He's an athlete also?
Yeah, he played baseball.
Oh, really?
Honestly. Yeah. We met each other. We were always looking for free food on campus.
Uh-huh.
I heard there'd be pizza here. Oh, I heard they were going to have some chicken wings. You know what I mean? And then we got a lot in common,
College sweethearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I are too.
Sweet.
Yeah. And we'll be, let's see, we're coming up on 40 years of marriage here.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that, right?
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, but if people, I want to go back to people getting discouraged, right?
Oh, right.
Because like if you're on the couch and you're listening to Marion, or even if you're listening to me talking about my bike ride, those may be beyond the reach of a lot of our listeners.
Sure.
So how do they track their progress? How do they say, I'm here right now, and 6 months from now I want to be here, but those gains are going to be so small every day, so incremental. How do they recognize that they are feeling the success of their folding the towel quickly, or going for that 5-minute walk, or lifting light weights, or or maybe because you pretty much have to get a prescription to go to physical therapy if you want insurance to pay for it, right?
Right.
So people that are listening to this, and they're saying, yeah, wow, I really want to try this. I really want to feel better. I want to do all those things, my capillaries and my mitochondria. But how do they know that it's working? What are the signs that you're better this week than you were last week, and that 6 months from now you're going to be way better than you are today?
Yeah, I think this is a really important topic. Well, one, your body takes a minute to adapt, I think, and it's that first 6 weeks you start a routine. You don't have a stronger heart yet. You don't have the capillary. It's just hard. It's just straight hard, and you're muscling through it. And that's kind of what we see in the clinic. And it is kind of discouraging. You're like, how am I going to fit this in my routine? How am I going to da-da-da? It is super hard, right? And the first 6 weeks are a battle. But then the second 6 weeks is when, and typically a session with physical therapy is about 12 weeks long, like a plan, a care. The second 6 weeks, people start saying things like, oh my gosh, I could get my groceries in the house. It's these little things that start, oh my gosh, I could walk all the way around the lake with my friends and we could talk. I didn't have to just focus on breathing. I could talk and join the conversation for the first time. Or I had a pillow fight with my grandson and I wasn't scared at all about falling. It's those little wins that we hear. I think it's really, and you touched on this, John, I think it's so important to track your workouts, keep a little journal. And you're right. You are so right. The gains you make, I wish we were all 18-year-old athletes. Like the gains you make when you're 18 are just so incredible. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When you're in your prime, but let's not compare ourselves to that. This is, this is where we are today. And I think it's important to keep track of your walks. How did I feel? How fatigued was I? What was my shortness of breath? If I had 0, was not short of breath at all. 10 is like, call the ER, 3 is I can say a word or two, you know what I mean? There's so many ways that you can track your fatigue, your shortness of breath, your distance, your maximum heart rate. All of these things are great indicators. And over time, you'll see, you'll be able to walk a further distance and your heart rate won't get as high. It's not as difficult for your heart to keep up with that distance anymore. And you'll see things like my fatigue isn't as bad at the end of the day. There's lots of awesome apps out there. There's some geared specifically. I mean, honestly, I would love it if we had a sarcoidosis app. I think that's the future of pulmonary rehab is people.
Really?
Oh yeah. I think like one day I'm going to come on Zoom and say, all right, let's go for a workout, everybody. And everybody just like boop hits on their Fitbit or whatever, their Apple smartwatch. And your workout data can go to your doctor then. And we'll start our workout. We'll go. We'll have lots of options and modifications so people can dial it up and dial it down. But it'll all be from your home and you can do it on your own time. And then, yeah, I think then it'll go off to your doctor and whoever your healthcare team is. They'll say, yep, looks good, Ted. Keep up the great work. And, and it'll all be, a lot more from your home. So I think that's the future. That was a project I worked on at UW. She had an app called, what was it called? Now I can't, LambFit. And I said, oh my gosh, Claire, we've got to get SarcFit going.
Really?
Yeah. So, and yes,
man.
I know.
You've got my wheels turning.
I know. So yeah, I already contacted the people at FSR already know Claire and they already know about her LambFit project. And I'm already like, oh my gosh, Claire, please get their grant so we can get this out so people can get stronger. Yeah.
Do you think it might happen or is this still a dream?
I don't know. I said, so we were talking, I haven't talked to Claire in a bit. Yeah, it's like, she hasn't applied to the grant yet, if that's what you're asking. So I need her to do that. That's our next step. And I'll have to pester her. Hey, Claire. But I'm sure she just finished her dissertation for her PhD. That was on the LambFit. They saw such outstanding results. Helping people, just like you said, helping people take those baby steps. And then in the app would track your walks, your heart rate, your oxygen, all that.
So that's interesting because number one, this is just a quick answer, but do you think that everybody should be wearing some sort of a Fitbit, Apple Watch, Garmin device so they can track just basic data on their watch?
Yeah, they're kind of expensive. I don't wear one, but I don't have sarcoidosis. And
you don't need one.
Well, I don't think they're totally necessary and they are pricey, but I think there's a lot of advantages to the sarcoidosis population. If you're a person that, boy, I'm not sleeping well, what's my oxygen saturation at night? Yeah, the Apple Watch can tell you that. Maybe should you get a sleep study? Should you get somebody, are you have any sleep apnea issues? That kind of stuff.
Here's where I'm headed though, is going back to my question of, am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I better than I was 2 or 3 weeks from now? And you may not feel it, but your data points will tell if you are healthier, if your heart rate is thus and such better, or all the different things that people with your expertise could look at and actually look at a person and say, it may not feel like it, but those walks have been making a difference. And this is where we can see it. We can track it with your watch. Or they even have rings people can wear now. I can't think of them.
Yeah, Aura Ring, yeah.
Yeah, the Aura Ring. So you can even wear a ring and get that data. The one thing I look at a lot is my heart rate, my resting heart rate. And, and then on my bike, I always know it's like, okay, at a given level of exertion, in the spring when I'm just kind of getting outside, I'm averaging 15 miles an hour, and then I can ride that same ride at the end of August or early September. Now it's 18 miles an hour.
Oh, nice.
Rate is the same, so I know I'm fitter than I was. So I can track it that way. But if you are somebody who's like, your struggle is getting off the couch, getting up the stairs, doing the dishes, going about your daily life, and just feeling fatigued and tired, and just don't have the energy to do it. If that's what it is, that's going to be hard to measure. Was it easier to get up the stairs today than yesterday? I don't know. But you know what? My data points tell me that I am doing way better.
Yeah.
That And if we could do that with a sarcoidosis app, wouldn't that be cool?
Right. I know. Isn't that, I loved working on this project. I tell you, I got to work on it with Claire. We just published a little paper about it, and the results were awesome.
Who's Claire?
Claire Child, she has done some webinars for the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research. I can get you some information on her if you want. She is fantastic. Really, really cool lady. And she did this, just like you were saying, it was wearables, and everybody got a little program, and the programs were all adjusted to meet their needs. And, it was kind of like, here you go. And they would check in. They came in and saw their doctor initially, and then they did do periodic check-ins. So it's not like it was completely independent. It was, we made sure that they were doing the exercises correctly. They had great technique. They understood the purpose of each exercise. And we did weekly check-ins with them to make sure, hey, what was going on during this minute 16? Oxygen was a little low. I think we might want to talk to your doctor. Maybe we titrate up the oxygen, things like that. So I shouldn't say it was completely independent, but they didn't come into the clinic anymore. It was, and it was one thing with PT and probably lots of exercises is once you leave the space, you don't maintain it. Like once that gym closes or once the PT is over, it's so hard to transfer it back to your home. But if with the LambFit app, in which I hope the Sarc Fit app, it's always in your home, and you can always maintain it. It's just after you're done with the 12-week program, you can continue with the community-based app, which was something really cool that was offered through LambFit. And I said, I'm hoping we can offer classes, like Zoom. Yeah, I think that'd just be great to weightlifting, strength, flexibility, just to help people, dealing with all their symptoms.
Wow. That now you really got me thinking. I knew nothing about this idea for an app before we started talking.
Oh yeah. Oh boy, it's so exciting. Pulmonary rehab is going to change so much, I think, in the next 10 to 20 years. It's going to be great.
So that's pulmonary, but I would think.
Oh, sorry. All rehab, I should say.
Cardiac sarcoidosis patients. Royce, who's been on, he's got cardiac sarc, so he bought an e-bike so that because he was supposed to exercise, but he wasn't supposed to jack his heart rate up. So whenever he got to a hill, he'd just
right.
on the motor on that e-bike, and it would go up the hill, and then he could just keep riding. So without over.
I love that.
Yeah. So why don't you give us some last words of encouragement to get up and get moving, Marion?
Oh boy. Oh man.
I put you on the spot, didn't I?
I know. It's just so good for you. I don't know if everything in your life is going to improve if you're in better shape. Your sleep will improve, your mood will improve. You'll be able to do more and be less tired. It is just so worth it to get in good shape. And I know you said every time you go on a ride, sometimes you'll have a real good one. You'll say, take that sarcoidosis. And
yes. That's
exactly that. You're fighting that, you're pushing back on those symptoms, that disease. This is you taking control. And I think it's just really powerful.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
I feel like a zombie, just feeding and stumbling.
So thanks to Marion for all of her energy and advice. Let's find a way to get moving and improve our capillaries and our mitochondria. And wouldn't it be cool to have that app that she's talking about that could track our data, show us improvements that we might not feel on a daily basis, right? I mean, if you're doing a 5-minute walk every day and you don't know if it's helping, it's like watching the hands on a clock, right? You really can't see the movement of the hands, but you know what's happening. And if that app could track your data and your health and show, you know what? Well, your heart rate used to be here and now it's here, and that's just a couple of ticks, but that means you're doing so much better. That would be really cool. And there's also that motivating factor of holding yourself accountable. I love to write down all the things that I do, my journal of my workouts, and I, every time I can add something to my journal, I feel like my collection grows, and that's just a motivating factor for me. And if there was an app that was tracking that data, and you could see the improvement over time, even if it dips for a few days or a few weeks, but then it starts to trend back up, which is not unusual for even for the top level athletes. You'd be able to track it over time, and all of a sudden one day, like she said, I didn't have as much trouble bringing the groceries in from the car, or I'm moving around the house a lot better. I'm going up the stairs better. It comes up on you slowly, but it could be there. So I'm gonna keep in touch with Marion with respect to this app and see if it's something that FSR might be able to help out with. I don't know. Conceptually, I think it's a good idea. All right. Hey, this is a good time to contact me if you'd like to share your story here on the podcast. carlinagency@gmail.com is the best way to reach out. Remember, the official Sarc Fighter song is Zombie by Mark Steyer, a fellow Sarc Fighter. This podcast comes out every other Monday. As I'm speaking today, my trusty dogs Dougal and Shandy are both curled up here in my office, and they make my life so much better. The backstory to the founding for the Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research, way back in episode 11 with Andrea and Redding Wilson. Andrea suffers from sarcoidosis. Don't forget to follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, even on Peloton as Sarc Fighter. I have a cycling blog called Carlin the Cyclist, has a section called Cycling with Sarcoidosis. If you're new here, you're just trying to figure out what sarcoidosis is, listen to episode 2 with Dr. Simon Hart. My story is episode 1. Again, please send me an email. It's in the show notes, carlinagency@gmail.com. Until next time, keep fighting.
Learn to suffer, you feel pain someday. Learn endurance, your strength will fade away. Dead man walking, trying to keep up the pace. Dead man walking, counting